And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today, we are looking at the injury report around the Commanders and looking at some key injuries that could really play a factor as the Washington Commanders get ready to take on the Philadelphia Eagles. And so let's go ahead and jump into it. You can obviously find this article on Commanders Wire. But the key to note here is that first and foremost, we do get our center back in Tyler Biadasz. He missed last game due to an illness, and he's saying that he's absolutely playing this week, which is huge for the Washington Commanders. We'll talk about that in a second. But on the other side of this, Sam Cosmi and tight end John Bates, they missed practice due to an illness, and that is huge. And so going into this, the Washington Commanders gave up 8 sacks last week. And so going into this game against the Philadelphia Eagles, this team cannot afford to give up sacks because the Philadelphia Eagles have been pretty good on defense because right now, at the time of this recording, the Eagles are top 10 in sacks. And so they absolutely know how to get home against opposing quarterbacks. And on top of that, their secondary has been pretty good against quarterbacks. At this point, they are 6th in the NFL as far as QB rates allowed at 82.8. And so in order for your quarterback to be effective, he's going to have time in the pocket to go ahead and figure out where to go with the football down the field. And so this is why when you see these illnesses pop up, going into this game, this is something that the Commanders are absolutely going to have to address. Hopefully, we do get Sam Cosmi back. Hopefully, Tyler Biadasz is at full strength because the Washington Commanders cannot afford to give up 8 sacks to the Eagles. You know that they're going to be coming after Jaden Daniels, especially after looking at what the Saints were able to do last week. And as far as John Bates is concerned, that is pretty huge too for the Commanders because as shown here, Zach Ertz is still in the concussion protocol, may not make it back for this game. And so with that being said, this is tough for the Washington Commanders offense now because we clearly don't have Noah Brown. He was our number 2 wide receiver. Last week, the Washington Commanders were able to really get this thing done via committee. I think that Zach Ertz was going to have a pretty good football game until he went out with the concussion. And so now, it was probably you're looking at this roster and you're saying, okay, John Bates would probably be the next player that could step up. And now that he may not be full strength, where do the Washington Commanders go from here? This is where the Washington Commanders are really going to have to figure it out. You would want to have an experienced player like John Bates. We might have to rely a little bit more on our rookie tight end this week, but we'll see how these injuries really play out here. And so just to give you a quick update about these injuries, hopefully it is something that the Commanders can really get over. And also, too, from the shifting back and just looking at the offensive line standpoint, not only is this important for Jaden Daniels and the protections and everything like that, but it's also going to be important for the Washington Commanders running game as well, because last week against the Saints, Brian Robinson Jr., he only had 65 yards, I believe. And so, he only had about 3.1 carries or 3.1 average, per carry out there. And so, in order to really open up these running lanes and things like that, the Washington Commanders need to have a healthy offensive line. And that's something that the Washington Commanders really do well this year, because right now, as far as just running attempts, the Washington Commanders are top 5 in the league. And so that is something that is critical to this offense. And I think that really that's kind of the key to the Washington Commanders. It starts with running the football, and I think that everything else opens up here. So anyway, let me know what you're thinking about this recent injury update news around the Washington Commanders. Is this something that could be a setback for this team? We'll be talking about this injury report a little bit more on tomorrow's show, and then we'll also be looking at some of the keys for this upcoming game, because the Washington Commanders desperately need this one in order to really keep the Eagles from going ahead and securing the NFC East. Maybe the Commanders can get there and maybe they can overtake the Eagles, but they have got to win this upcoming game. All right, so this is Washington Commanders Insider. I'll see you on the next one.